Question 7 of your Algebra mock exam asks you to factorise the following. So we've got three parts here, A, B and C, so let's look at part A first. Now factorising is basically where we try and put a part of this into brackets. In other words, we take out common factors from each term. So the best way to do this is to look at the two terms. So here we've got 4y minus 12. Now what we need to think about here is what are the common factors of 4y and 12. Don't worry about the negative value yet, we'll come back to that. So let's look at this. What makes up 4y? Can we break 4y down? Well, 4y can be written as 2 times 2 times y. It could also be written as 1 times 4 times y. Yep. So all of those mean the same thing. Now there's no other way of breaking this down now, because these are all the factors of 4 and y. So then if we look at 12, we could write that in a number of ways, couldn't we? We could write that as 1 times 12, or we could write it as 2 times 6, or we could write it as 3 times 4. And that's all the factors of 12 that we could write that out as. Now if we look along here, and what we want to do is we want to look for any factors that appear in one of these and in one of these as well. So here we can see that 1 and 12, that doesn't appear anywhere in those two. The only one that appears is 1, and we're not really interested in that, so we can lose that one. We're not worried about that one. We could use 2 times 6 because we've got a 2 here and a 2 here, so we could use those two. But what we want is the highest common factor, and if we look here we can see the highest common factor is 4. So there's a 4 there and there's a 4 there. So this is the one that we're going to use. We're not going to use this one because although 2 is a common factor, 4 is higher, and that's the one we're interested in, so we can get rid of those two. So if we look at this then, what we're going to say is we're going to take the highest common factor out of this, which is 4 and 4 out of here, and we're going to put that on the outside of the brackets. Now inside the bracket we're going to have basically what's left over. Now here timesing by 1 doesn't change it, so we can forget about the timesing by 1, but we do need the y from there. So we've used the 4, we've used the y, and now we don't need to use the 1 because that won't change the value of the y. Here we need to look at what we're going to use. So we've used the 4, we've put that on the outside, so all that remains to be left then is the 3 to go inside the bracket. Now at this point all we've got to ask ourselves is, does the symbol that joins these two together, does that need to be a positive or a negative? Well, in order to get minus 12 we either have to have minus 4 or minus 3. Now obviously we can't have minus 4 because that would give us minus 4y here, so we put the minus in here like that. Now just as a quick check to see if we've done this right, we can expand this out a bit again. So if we, this is the final answer, that's the answer to the question, but what we need to ask ourselves is, if we expand this out, will we get back to that? So if we expand that out, 4 times y gives us 4y, and then 4 times minus 3 gives us minus 12, so we've got back to our original expression, so we know that that is the final answer. 4 open bracket y minus 3 close bracket is the answer. Let's have a look at B now. So exactly the same principle applies. B is 15p plus 6q. So let's break these down into their factors. 15p could be written as 1 times 15 times p, or it could be written as 3 times 5 times p. Okay, and there's no other way of breaking that down, there's no other common factors involved here. So let's break the other one down, 6q. Now that could be written as 1 times 6 times q, or it could be written as 2 times 3 times q, like that. Now in this case, and we can't break that down any further. Now in this case we're looking for the highest common factor that appears in here and in here. Now actually the only numbers that appear in both lists are 1, and 3. So 3 is the higher number, so we're going to use the 3. So we can lose that term, we're not going to use that one, and we're going to lose that term, we're not going to use that one. So these are the two that we're interested in. So we take that common factor of 3, that goes on the outside of the brackets. So we've used that from both lists. Then let's look at what we put inside the brackets. And what goes inside the brackets is simply what's left. So here we've got 5p, 5 times p. And then we've got, in this one, 2 times q, 2 times q. And then the only question that remains is, should this be a plus or a minus? Well, here we've got a plus, so therefore that will be a plus. So we can see now that is the answer to the question. Let's just double check that we've factorised it correctly by multiplying it out. So 3 times 5p gives us 15p, and 3 times 2q gives us 6q, like that. Looking at C now, the final part of this question, we can see there 24u minus 16t. So I'm just going to stop this and then we're going to solve that one in a moment.